Armada Book 7 Chapter 8, The Lonely Part 1. Ellie turned off the engine of her vintage 1,690 cubic centimeters Harley. She parked her bike at the back of the bar and walked around towards the front door carrying her headgear. She has been on the road for more than 2 hours coming from Los Angeles. She intended to go to their family cabin, which was along the way towards Yosemite Park. The bar was almost empty at early afternoon. She felt good about it since she doesn't want any noise. Just peace and quiet while she has her lunch. She chose to sit at the bar, at the end of the bar. As she sat, she could see the back exit door. She calculated how long would she take to walk to her bike, fast or normal. She ordered a steak meal and some Scotch whiskey on the rocks. She felt she needed the drink to calm her muscles from the long bike ride. The whiskey tasted really sweet to her. The mirror in front of her showed a very expensive car pull in and parked right in front of the bar. A man, neatly dressed, walked in and sat a chair away from her. The man looked at her and she nodded a hello. The man gave her a smile and nodded. The steak meal tasted really great and she ordered some red wine this time. Then she felt a tear trying to fall out of her right eye. She seemed baffled why her mind was not informed by her body that a tear is about to fall. She caught it with the back of her right hand. Images of her parents rushed in front of her. She stopped eating and just stared at the bar. She could see her parents laughing and greeting her as she arrived from the Air Force Base. They even moved near the base just to be with her. But she was always out of the base on some mission in various countries, some combat and some intel missions. Then, just like soap bubble bursting, her parents were taken away from her. They were driving from a party when a truck T-boned the car and killed them, on the spot. This one event caused her world to crash. She was normally a straight-thinking woman with a very strong personality, but she could not get the feeling off. She felt so alone. So lonely and sad. She sighed. "Are you okay?" the man beside her asked. Ellie looked at him with a blank stare. "Yes, sorry. I'm Paul Rose," the man said and offered a hand. Ellie instinctively extended her hand. "I'm Ellie Rivers. Is the steak any good?" "It is, but it's just me. I am just so hungry. I ordered an omelet and I felt a need to eat more." Ellie heard the main door open and she glanced at the mirror in front of her. 2 men entered the door. They were both wearing dark suits. One stood 2 steps from the door and the other went straight at them. At the corner of her left eye, Ellie could see the man unbutton his suit and tried to reach for something. She saw a large bulge. Ellie was quick. She held her headgear and as the man raised a gun she was already swinging the headgear. She hit the gun with her headgear and the man fired a shot upwards to the ceiling. Then Ellie turned to kick the man's right knee, hard, almost breaking his leg. The guy was forced to turn towards his left and as he fell Ellie held his head and twisted it towards the right. He hit the floor dead. Ellie saw the other guy reaching for a gun. She was moving to a kneeling position which enabled her to grab the gun from the falling man and shot at the man near the door. 2 quick shots and the guy fell backwards towards the door. The door opened and he fell outside. The door opened wide and Ellie could see 3 men armed with long firearms further out in the parking lot. The 3 men outside started to shoot the place with submachine guns. Some of their shots hit the cars in front. 2 guys seated near the windows were hit, one in the shoulder and the other on the face. Then they heard a loud explosion of Paul's car. By this time Ellie was already halfway towards the exit door. She noticed Paul following him. Ellie knelt before opening the exit door. Paul knelt behind her. "Were you the target of the men?" Ellie asked him. "I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they were after you." Ellie slowly opened the door and seeing that it was clear she ran towards her bike. "Why are you following me? Stop following me." She jumped on her bike and started it. She felt Paul riding behind her. She wanted to tell him to get off but she realized Paul could serve as her back shield. "Hold on," she said as she drove her bike outside the lot and exited towards a side street. She drove towards the mountains for a good hour. All along Paul was quiet. He was still holding her by the waist when she stopped by a gas station. As she got off Ellie felt Paul's hold loosen and she thought that Paul is getting off the bike also. He fell beside the bike. Ellie quickly stood him up and sat him on the bike. She noticed blood on his suit and she realized he had a gunshot wound on his right shoulder. She led him towards the side of the store and sat him on one of the inverted buckets near the wall. She then proceeded to remove his suit and white shirt. She realized Paul was wearing a body armor and was hit just above the armor suit. "Lucky shot," she told him. Paul nodded. "Stay here, I'll get something to fix you up." Ellie moved to her bike and walked her bike in front of Paul. She got a medicine box from her bike and began to put an ointment lavishly on the wound and then a bandage. She realized that either Paul was the target or she just let the guy take a bullet for her as she intended in the first place. Then she felt sorry for the guy. "I'm sorry you took a bullet for me," Ellie told him. I got hit inside the restaurant by the guys outside. I should have taken cover. So it was really my fault. Paul felt the ointment had greatly reduced the pain from his wound. Let me put some gas and we'll move on, Ellie said as she moved her bike near the pumps. She had Paul hold onto her tight as she drove towards their cabin in the mountains. After more than an hour they arrived at a large 2-story log cabin and she parked her bike inside a shed filled with firewood at the side of the house. Paul leaned by the door quietly and moved to the side when Ellie tried to open the door. Lay down here and I will fix your wound. You have a bullet inside you. Paul laid on the sofa and stared at the ceiling. Then he fell asleep. Ellie got the cabin's large medicine bag. She also got a box that contained wound-treating medicines and bandages. She started by checking the antibiotics. Paul woke up the next day. He found himself on a bed in one of the rooms on the first floor. He got up and he felt stronger. He realized Ellie had put on the bandages as if a doctor put them on. Very professional, he thought. He realized he was wearing a large white hoodie that opened in front. As he walked he also realized he was wearing white jogging pants. Then he felt the cold stone floor. He saw a pair of slippers but he decided he liked the cold stone. He felt more alive walking on a cold floor. Ellie was in her pajamas sitting on a recliner with her tablet on. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Ellie. Thanks for fixing my wound and the color-coordinated sports get-up. Ellie smiled, stood, and, come, let's have breakfast. As they were eating, why would somebody want to kill you, Paul? Ellie asked. I don't know. I don't even know if I was the target. Maybe they were after you. Look, you are a very rich person and owns one of the largest tech companies in the world. I checked you out and opened your wallet and phone. I am just an Air Force captain. I'd say a lot more people would be after you than me. What bothers me is that you had no calls on your phone since we met. Paul put his hand on Ellie's hand. I wanted to be alone for a while so I got my reserve phone. Except for my secretary, nobody knows about this phone. I guess you wanted to be alone also. Ellie moved her hand out of Paul's reach. No, I wanted to take a rest in our cabin here. Ellie, at the bar, I felt that you felt so much anguish and pain. I am sorry for whatever it is, but I would like you to know that I want to help you with whatever it is that's causing the pain. You cannot help. She paused and looked at his eyes. It may help if you can just tell me about it. Ellie thought for a while. Okay, I will tell you. Maybe it will ease a bit. She took a deep breath. 2 weeks ago I was on a mission when I heard my parents died in an accident. I could not go home quickly because I was on the battlefield flying an attack heli blowing up tanks and enemy positions. I came back after 3 days, just in time for the wake and burial. They were all the world to me. Now I have nothing. All my work is to make them proud of me, so they would be happy with me. Anyway, I quit the service and got on my dad's bike to travel around. I thought maybe the travel could ease my pain. Paul was quiet and thought for a while. Wait, Rivers. Your dad was the Secretary of Defense under President Albert? Yes. I guess people know him. If he was not in that position I would never have been able to come home as fast as I did. Did you investigate the accident? Ellie stopped eating and looked at him. Are you saying they were assassinated? If they were, then that would explain the bar shooting. Ellie suddenly felt cold. I can help, Paul said. Why would anybody assassinate my dad and mom? Do you know any of his friends? Maybe they can help clear things. Ellie thought of his Uncle Andrew, the closest person to his dad. She realized he was not at the funeral. In fact, she had not heard from him for years. Then she thought of her Uncle Rogan, who is now the superintendent of the academy. He was at the funeral and they did talk, but she forgot what they talked about because mainly it was small talk. Let's go down to the basement. Bring your food if you like. She got her glass of milk and stood. Paul stood and brought his plate and glass of orange juice. Ellie opened a panel by the hallway and it opened to an elevator. They got in and Ellie pushed the fourth letter, letter D. The elevator went down, past 1, A, B, and C. The elevator opened to a small room and Ellie opened a panel by the side of the elevator. It opened a palm and retinal scan. She placed her hand and right eye and a large door opened across the elevator. Come on. Nice place. He saw that he was in a command and control type of room with more than a dozen large screens, several computers on 2 long tables. On the front wall were more than a dozen screens. He put his plate on a table beside him. Ellie walked towards a wall and opened a secret panel. The panel showed a large switch and she pulled it down. The room came alive as she sat on a table next to Paul's table. She punched several keys on her keyboard and her face appeared on the middle screen. Hi Ellie, good to have you back. I want to know where General Andrew Mann is right now. Wait, let me get that information for you. Ellie AI said as Ellie looked at Paul. He was quietly eating his bacon and eggs. I also want to talk to General Rogan. After a few minutes the screen on her right showed Rogan's face. Hi Ellie. What's up? I see you are in Timmy's man cave. Hi Uncle Rogan. I feel like Dad and Mom were assassinated. Rogan looked at her for a long while. You know Andrew had an attempt on his life more than a week ago. That's why he stayed at the fringes when your Mom and Dad were buried. When you asked me then where he was I could not tell you, but he was beside his car looking at us. Was there an attempt on your life? Rogan looked at her. Yes, and on my wife too. We moved to my quarters in the base with a 24-hour guard on duty. Where is Uncle Andrew right now? If I knew Andrew, he would be looking for you. Or he would be monitoring you. Expect him to find you in a day or two. Ellie related to Rogan what happened yesterday at the bar. Then she introduced Paul to Rogan. He took a bullet for me, so I had to fix him up. Ellie said. Sorry Paul. She held his hand. Ellie felt something like her thoughts became scrambled for a split second. Then she felt calm and relaxed. She quickly removed her hand on Paul. If they were after you, that means they did not know about me. Now they do. She pointed to a screen showing the bar they were in with a lot of police and military-looking people. Paul's burned car was in front of the bar as with two other cars with hundreds of bullet holes. Do they have videos of us? No they do not. Ellie said. That would mean the police would think the shooters were after you. Paul nodded and drank his orange juice. Do you want me to file for a formal investigation of your dad's killing? No, the killers would be more aware and careful. I would investigate myself. Just tell me what you want me to do and I will do it for you. Thanks Uncle Rogan. I will talk to you later. Rogan nodded and the screen turned blank. Ellie, the last information I have with Andrew is a day after the attempted assassination of him. Then he went off the grid. Ellie, can you pan the news feed on the bar shooting? I want to see it slowly please. Ellie told her AI. Paul looked at her and nodded. I believe Andrew is in the news video. Ellie AI showed an enlarged hazy picture of a man behind a van looking into the scene. That's Uncle Andrew all right. Ellie said. Do you want me to show the security videos from last night? Ellie AI asked. Yes, was there anything? For screens lit up with videos of the road, the house, the hills and several places on a screen split into 8. None within our range. Ellie AI said. He could be coming in today or maybe right now. Yes, there would be a stronger probability Andrew would be coming in 2 hours since the nearest nondescript hotel is about 2 hours away. He would probably be riding his truck. Ellie, do you have a secure phone? Paul asked. This one is a satellite phone. Just dial 1 and the number you want to call. Paul dialed a number and said, Eve, it's Sunny Ray. Then he hung up. That was my secretary. I told her I was okay and secure. Tell me something, Paul. You were born in Australia as an American citizen, grew up in South Africa, studied in Canada and made money inventing things. People know you as a math whiz, a geek and a savvy businessman who can foresee what's going to happen in the business world. It's like you can read people's mind. Wait, did you just read my mind when I touched your hand? I guess with all this equipment here, you probably know a lot of things about me. I found nothing wrong and if I did you wouldn't be here. Okay, I will let you in on a secret since you basically saved my life and since you mentioned it. He looked into her eyes. I can read people's minds. Ellie looked disbelieving. Paul continued, when I first touched your hand at the bar, all I felt was sadness. Sadness and loneliness. So dark and barren. I did see you with your dad and mom. You were a daddy's girl. And you have 2 doctorates, in chemical engineering and astrophysics. Actually I found a lot more and I am amazed to say the least. The bar fight would seem amazing to a lot of people even to me but you are a trained commando operative so that explains it. You found that out with the short touch of our hands? No, even when I was out when you tended my wound, while you were stitching me up, my mind connected to yours and I got a lot of things. You have a strange mind. Anyway, can you tell the future? No. I can only read minds and feel people. Like when I first have a handshake with a business person, I would see what kind of mind he or she has and whether they would cross me or not. Believe me, it's not a nice feeling. More than 80% of my time I spend avoiding them since, often, they are very insistent. One thing I find really strange is that you do not have any family. I told Ellie to trace your family all the way from Australia to Canada to South Africa and she could not find anybody. But I guess you covered your tracks really well. Now this incident may cause an investigation into your life and this doubt will be put on the table. Actually, I have a family. But they are all hidden. You see, all of us in my family are what you can call as mind readers, and we can actually telepathically talk to each other. Can you imagine if people found out about my family? We would all be killed or used. So we decided that all would just vanish from the face of the planet, except me, so I can provide for their needs. Ellie AI suddenly said, I would suggest you freshen up Ellie, Paul. Andrew would be here in just over an hour. Thank you Ellie. Paul, let's go. She guided him back to the elevator and they go off on level C. This is our living quarters. This is one of our guest rooms for a couple, this will be your room. Let me show you my dad's room so you can pick up some clothes. Then you go back here to your room and freshen up. Paul found her dad's room very large. Ellie opened a wall cabinet full of clothes. Paul saw some military officer clothes and some more. He chose a pair of jeans and a shirt. Ellie got a jacket for him. If you need help, push this communications pad and Ellie will help you out. After an hour Paul was back at the control room where he found Ellie in a denim jacket and jeans. Your dad is bigger than me, Paul said. Ellie smiled, good thing he is. Otherwise all your clothes would be very tight and I can imagine that too. They both laughed. I spotted Andrew's truck going up the hill Ellie. He is driving really fast. Ellie I said. Check if somebody is after him. None within a mile. Come on Paul, let's go topside and meet my Uncle Andrew. Wait. Ellie moved to a panel that opened to a cabinet of guns. She got a small M16, inspected the magazine and gave it to Paul. She got a pair of pistols with holsters in a belt and she put them on her waist. Then she got a small shotgun. Do you think you can handle that thing? Ellie asked. Sure. I think I can. They waited inside the cabin and looked out into the opening in front. Then Andrew's truck came in and stopped. Andrew got out and he punched his keyless code and the door unlocked. Hi Uncle Andrew. She moved and hugged Andrew. She gave him a kiss on both cheeks. Hi Ellie. Andrew said. Then Andrew saw a man and Ellie introduced Paul to him. Andrew held out his hand for a handshake and Ellie stopped him. Uncle Andrew, he can read your mind if you touch him. Paul looked at her. Okay, good you're here. I will move my truck to the back and park it inside and under. Ellie nodded and, come on Paul, I better move my bike also. Paul could see Andrew move his truck inside what looked like a garage under the house. Then Ellie moved her bike also and parked it beside the truck. Paul saw the whole floor move down and the truck and Ellie's bike were gone. A clean wooden floor replaced what used to be the wooden floor of the garage. Andrew moved to enter the house via a door at the side of the garage. After a while they found themselves back in the control room. Was I followed Ellie? No. Not for a mile back. So what did you find out? Uncle Andrew, there was an attempt on Uncle Rogan and his wife's lives. Then she related the bar incident where he killed 2 people. Then he told Andrew about Paul. There was an attempt on Alan's life also. You remember Alan, the head of the Navy Command? Ellie nodded. Ellie, show me all the military people killed in non-combat situations in the last 4 weeks. The screens on the front wall lighted up with faces of military people. Ellie AI appeared on the screen near them. Almost all of the people were combat heroes. I can also show some military people from other countries who died in the last 3 weeks in non-combat situations. The screens were moving with images of more people, then the uniforms started to change. Ellie realized some of the faces had the German flag, some had the Japanese flag, then some more flags. Ellie, I want to talk to Albert. Andrew said. They continued to look at the screens and the faces keep adding up and moving and then replaced by a new face. Albert's face appeared on the computer in front of Andrew. Hello Mr. President. Hi Ellie, I am so sorry for your loss. Hi Andrew, I told you to just call me Albert. Anyway, what's up? Thank you sir. And thank you for the escort you provided on my trip back home. Albert nodded. Andrew related the large number of top-performing military people who died in the last 3 weeks. Some were US military, some German, some Japanese and so on. He told him about the attempt on Ellie and Paul. That's not good. I know there was an attempt on Alan and Rogan. Then you. I will impose a lockdown on all probable targets. It would have to be a covert operation done only by your trusted people. But this will rattle them out. If they found out. Why don't you form a team Andrew? I can assign the best guys for you and provide the logistics for the operations. Harold would work with you. Harold is the up-and-coming defense secretary. Albert, I'm a civilian now. I cannot work like this. Harold can work on this for you. Choose your people and let him provide the logistics and muscle. Ellie told Andrew no, with her head. It would be found out. Let me just get some people if I need them and call Harold for anything else. Okay, if you say so. Call me if you need me. Albert's face disappeared. Uncle Andrew, Paul's secret should be just between the 3 of us. It's very important to him. Andrew looked at her, okay. But we need his help. I will do anything to help Ellie here. Andrew looked at him, why don't you marry her then? Stop joking Uncle Andrew. I would if she wants me to. I mean for the sake of the task at hand. We could divorce later when we need to. He looked at Ellie. Wait. That would be the perfect excuse for your meeting at the bar. Nobody would then connect the attempt on Ellie since she's with you. Andrew is really smart. You're setting me up, Uncle Andrew. Ellie, your parents are dead. I am your only parent now and I have the power to give your hand away in marriage. You may not love me as you love Timmy and Elaine. But Timmy wants me to do this since I am your closest relative, sort of. Ellie laughed. I really don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a perfect idea. We can both work together, with Uncle Andrew, and maybe his team, and you will have access to all the technology and logistics my companies can provide. Look Ellie, you saved my life. It's the least I can do for you. I don't know about this. Paul would now be a target as with Uncle Rogan and his wife. This time the husband will also be a target. Paul, you could get killed. I don't mind being the target, but I am sure they will not succeed. Good. Ellie, was Eric Joyce killed? No, Andrew. He is alive and well in Japan with his sister. Ellie, I said. Tell him to come to the States and call Harold. Tell Harold I want Eric on my team. Tell Eric to get his ass over quick. How about Rabina Perek, where is she, Ellie? Ellie asked. She's with Rebecca Bott, her best friend, in Bonn, Germany. Call her and tell her and Rebecca to come over here and contact Harold. Ellie, put a trace on all calls to and from Harold. Monitor if anybody is hacking his phones. I need access to your database, Paul. Ellie, I said. Paul gave Ellie AI his command and control password using the keyboard in front of him. It was very long. Then he entered a second, then a third. Then he entered an algorithm of a sphere with shapes inside. Then another algorithm and finally a key based on the time on his desk to start both algorithms. That's a sneaky password. See Ellie, I can be very helpful. So how can we arrange the wedding? What if it's a secret wedding? We would provide news that it was done somewhere when in fact it was never done. Ellie suggested. Nice try, Ellie. The people who wants us killed would know and send out counter intel and kill the story. But if it's on live TV? Ellie stood and shouted, live TV? I like it. And besides, do you know how many women are after my ass? Ellie pushed his shoulders. They will still push even if you are married. Look Ellie, imagine if you will. I hold a woman's hand and I see in her head. And what I see first would be her feelings and imaginations about us. Often the images are not pretty at all. Some grosses me out. But what can I do? I have to be nice and smile and hold them to read some more shit. So in a way our marriage will prevent these things mainly, not all, I would agree with you, but a large number of them will stay away. We can do it with Albert as your godfather so it would be on national TV. We can even do it in the White House for all I care. Or we can do it here. This cabin is very secure. Not even a bunker buster bomb can bust into this room. Remember Ellie, I have the means, and the will, to do this. Okay, but no kissing. What, that would kill the show, Paul said. Andrew suggested, just a decent kiss on the lips a few times would do. This is grossing me out. Ellie, it's just a kiss or some kisses. Remember we would be holding hands most of the time and I would be reading your mind, so you should get used to the idea that I am the closest person who knows and understands you in and out. See, understanding is the key. Her Uncle Andrew is really smart, Ellie thought. So can we drink to our engagement? Ellie, your dad has a secret stash of the best wines and brandies that he has been saving just for your wedding. It's on level A, room 12. It's refrigerated so you have to wear coats if you plan to stay inside longer than 5 minutes. Ellie AI suggested. Ellie started to cry and Andrew was quick to hug her. Then Paul hugged her from behind. After a while, what are you doing? Ellie asked. This is an engagement hug. Ellie pushed Paul back with her back. I'm crying and you're thinking about our marriage? How would a person in love supposed to think? I have to do this, you know, for realism. Now Ellie suddenly started to doubt Paul's sanity. Andrew pulled back. No Ellie, Paul is not crazy. Let's announce it tomorrow then do the wedding in a week or two. We have to get our people in by then and have the VIPs insert the wedding in their tight calendars. Ellie, where is Dr. Victoria Pines right now? Ellie asked her AI. She's at her house in Pasadena. She's not married anymore, right? That is correct, Ellie. I want a double wedding. Now Ellie, wedding is no joking matter. Andrew said. You two sounded like it was a while ago. Ellie, contact Dr. Pines and tell her Uncle Andrew wants to marry her and ask her if she would accept. Ellie, that's a rude way of talking to your Auntie Vicky. Uncle Andrew, she will think it's you who is being rude, not me. She will not even think about me. And since Dad and Mom are dead, there is only one person in the world who knows about her and you. What, Paul, you cheat, you were holding my hand all the time. She yanked her hand. Vicky is really pretty and very smart. While Ellie laughed, Andrew was quiet. She is asking for verbal confirmation, Andrew. Ellie AI said as Vicky's face appeared on the screen in front of Andrew. Hi Andrew. Ellie, is that you? Hi Auntie Vicky. She waved a hello. This is Paul. Paul waved a hello. Nice to meet you, Paul. So Andrew, what's this crazy idea Ellie's AI is asking me about? Ellie stood behind Andrew and held his shoulder from behind. Unknown to Andrew, Paul's hand was under Ellie's left hand and Paul started to read Andrew's mind. You're right, Vicky. The idea is crazy. He wants to marry you, Auntie Vicky. In fact, my dad told me that your dad agreed to buy a ring for Uncle Andrew just after you finished high school. Didn't your dad tell you about this ring? Vicky reached for something. You mean this ring? It should have 8 green peridot gems on it and a diamond. Vicky looked at the ring and, yes, there are 8 of this green gems around a small diamond. How did you know, Ellie? My dad told me the story. He accompanied your dad when he bought that ring for Uncle Andrew, so he could propose to you. But it never happened because Uncle Andrew was assigned overseas and he never came back. Vicky thought for a while. It was a little small for me, so I had it resized. And I asked my dad why he bought it and all he said was that it will come when the time is right. Okay, Andrew, come over to my house tomorrow, 7 p.m. would be a good time, and propose to me. Andrew was floored. But Vicky? No buts. Get your ass over here. Her face disappeared. So a double wedding then? She smiled at Andrew. Paul laughed. Then Andrew laughed. I want to go to level A, room 12. Andrew said. Let me go with you, Uncle Andrew. There is a nice veranda upstairs where we can drink. No, let's just drink here. By the way, Paul, you can't drink. Alcohol will mess up the antibiotics I injected into you to help you heal faster. Before we leave, I want to fix your wound again. And no, I am not kidding. Did you just read my mind, Ellie? The next day, right after breakfast, Andrew called Captain Roger Castro of the Navy to get his trusted men over to Vicky's house and secure the area covertly. They moved over to the control room to work. Paul called his office again. Eve, launch Operation Spring Break. What's with all this coded language? What's Spring Break anyway? I have a large control room underneath my building in San Jose. My idea then was counterintelligence and to monitor the bad guys in government. Remember, I know who these guys are from the mind reading, so I plan ahead to counter them. Track their every move and provide for situations where they could be neutralized or defeated. Spring Break means our usual operations is raised to a higher level, and this time we will not be concerned whether we break the law or not. It assumes a war situation is present. It seems like I am listening to a commando operative. I'm a video war games fan, Uncle Andrew. Is there a way for you to transfer your readings to me? It's complicated. The readings are not words. Sometimes they are images or feelings and my mind interprets them automatically and I understand them. Some are like screen images but no sound. Some have sound and sometimes the sound is not connected to the images. My mind has to process the image-sound combo to come up with a proper interpretation. These kinds of readings would be impossible to transfer unless you're telepathic also. So what can you transfer? Nothing. I cannot even talk to your mind in a way you can consciously understand. Why don't I just tell you? Telling would be good so I can listen also. Ellie, if he does not tell you, it would be the same as not transferring anything to you telepathically. Andrew has a way to say things in their simplest form. You must trust me, Ellie. I trusted my secret to you. You must trust me. You read my mind a lot of times and I feel you have it all. And I don't even know you. I want to know you. Ellie, I want you to know me. Ask me anything and I will tell you. How much money do you have? About $10 trillion, at least. That's a lot of money for people to not notice. Andrew said. Hiding is my expertise. Remember, my family is in hiding all the time. And you will marry me with that kind of money. So we will execute a prenup then? Ellie, I trust you. Remember, I read your mind and I know what kind of a person you are. And amazing is an understatement. Are you sure you are marrying her for show? He looked at Paul. Paul smiled. Would it matter, Uncle Andrew? He looked at Ellie. I guess not. So none of the bad guys in government are connected to the assassinations? I believe none of them are. Remember, these are narcissists, greedy and often stupid individuals who do not care for anybody except themselves. None is different from the regular patterns. Wait, Ellie, access file 10 of Spring Break and tell me if there is anybody who have deviated from the regular character model. Ellie AI appeared on the front screens. 2 people. Senator Rain and Congressman David. Senator Rain recently has a new support group, mainly from the criminal world, dealing with prostitution and international slave trafficking. Congressman David also has a new and very large support organization run by Chinese and Russian businessmen. They don't look like any different from the rest of the pack. Yes, but the amount of money is equal to all the monies all the other senators and congressmen get from their foundations. Ellie, I said. So something is in the works. Ellie, can we change your computer AI to somebody else? It is a bit confusing to me. Ellie thought for a while. What would you suggest? How about calling her Olive? You know, the girlfriend of Popeye. We have to change her face also. Olive is okay, I guess. Ellie, from now on your name is Olive. And show me the face of the little girl from the original Wizard of Oz movie. Yes, that face, older by 10 years, please. That's the face. I like the face, Ellie. Olive, you look good. Thanks, Paul. Ellie, do you have a good laptop that we can use on the road? We need to transfer part of Olive there so we have her as we travel. Paul asked. There is a laptop on Timmy's table that has me installed. I'll get it. I will change to some travel gear. Are you two going to prepare to leave? Ellie asked. I need some more big clothes, Ellie. Ellie laughed and held his hand. Come on. Ellie's group was able to leave right before lunch. Andrew hit the road at high speed. Ellie, who was sitting at the back seat, Uncle Andrew, this is a neat truck. But you drive like a maniac. She was having difficulty positioning her laptop with all the bumps. Andrew slowed down. I don't mind. Paul said as he typed something on Timmy's laptop. I have 4 satellites in space that I can control from here. These 4 are solely for spring break and my use. See, Ellie, we can see the road images from treetop view real time as we move. Move the view slowly far ahead until you hit 10 miles, then stay at that view. Then have one view of our immediate area, say quarter mile. Yes, Olive, analyze our surrounding and notify us for any threat. Olive's face appeared at the top of the screen of Ellie's laptop. Yes, Paul. Roger is calling you, Andrew. Andrew flicked a switch. Boss, I have 10 men surrounding the area. Nobody seems to be around except for 2 telephone guys. Get those 2 right after they leave and hold them for us. Our ETA is 4.5 hours. If I read their minds, I can find out what they were doing and who hired them. They probably are not real telephone guys, if at all. Ellie said. Let's hope so. Andrew said. The 2 installed a remote router, very high capacity, covering 3 miles around Vicky's house. I am now looking for very active modems and computers through Spring Break. Spring Break is really the hacker's dream network. I recreated thousands of IPs duplicating the real ones so that I would know what they know. I also created an auto-intrusion program to get in and take all that can be taken. And there is no conflict in the network, Paul? I use a different kind of technology. 2 addresses, one 3 houses down the road and another in a warehouse a block away. Olive said. Olive, tell Roger to get those guys involved and hold them for us. Get into the Caltech system and access their cable system. Look for new installations in the last 24 hours. Ellie said. Very good, Ellie. You know you created a very good AI. Olive is so advanced thinking. Thank you, Paul. Ellie, there were 3 new installations by the engineering department. 3 high-capacity routers. They were installed by this guy. He's new, just a year on the job. He used to work for a company owned by the family of Senator Elkin. Access his bank records and look for deposits or expenses. Trace where the money came from. I also need to read the guy's mind. Ellie, for a lot of the business leaders I deal with, I would often go to their hotel rooms to read their minds while they were sleeping. Sneaky. We can do that too, Ellie said. Elkin's main support groups are Chinese and Russian. And these guys have a lot of money. Olive said. It seems your husband knows a lot more than I can even imagine. He's not my husband. I don't mind. Ellie pushed Paul's head from the back. Paul laughed. Olive, call Eve, please. The face of a very pretty woman appeared on screen. She looks like a movie star. Ellie said. Eve, I need my computer and more than 3 dozen field phones to Vicky's address. Send Mitos and his hackers in 2 vans. Do you have access to Olive? Yes, she introduced herself to me an hour ago. Eve said. We would arrive at Vicky's house in 4 hours or so. Bring the gear for the pretend mind reading. Eve nodded. I found communications pertaining to Vicky's address. Tracing them now. We need more men. Olive, call Harold and patch the call to my truck. Andrew said. Paul, do you want me to call our troops? Eve asked. No. I want them to stay in the background and monitor our work. Harold's face appeared. What's up, Andrew? Hi, Harry, I need your trusted field operatives. Maybe a dozen. I have Kirk, Jenny, and Linda and their people near you. Where do you want them? At Vicky's house, say in 4 hours. So are you going to marry her? How did you know? Timmy and I worked together. On you. He laughed. Hi, Uncle Harold. This is Paul. Paul waved a hello. Oh, hi, Ellie. Albert told me about you and Paul. I am glad you and Paul are okay. Okay, Andrew, expect Kirk and the guys to be there in 4 hours. His face disappeared. The drive did not feel long for Andrew. Paul was busy talking to people who were all over the globe. Ellie was gathering intel and told Andrew anything that seemed important. Ellie got control of one of Paul's satellites and she focused at looking at Vicky's area. Vicky is leaving. She is getting into her car right now. Probably to buy some groceries for tonight. Andrew commented. After a few minutes, a car just parked in front of Vicky's house. 2 men are getting out. Ellie said. Olive, call Roger for me. Andrew said. Roger appeared. Boss, there are 2 guys going into Vicky's house. That means they are monitoring the house from space. But not through my satellites. Olive, access all satellite feeds of ground videos and images from Vicky's area. Trace the recipients. Paul said. After a few minutes, 4 companies are logged on. 4 company names appeared on Paul's and Ellie's screens. Non-military. Ellie commented. I am accessing their company servers now. I have identified the computers receiving the feeds. Olive said, and videos of a control center, an office, a warehouse with several computers and images inside what looked like a limousine appeared. Olive, memorize all their faces and compare with spring break data. Paul said. Several faces appeared. These are probably their main leaders. I can have my people get them so I can read their minds. You have commando operatives? Ellie asked. I have a small group of field operatives. They usually drug the subject and present them to me. Then I use the pretend mind-reading equipment to read their minds. Of course I play some computer tricks and then avoid telling them what I read. We have to coordinate my time with their operation so that we do not hold the subject longer than we need to. Good play. So you have mercs? Andrew asked. Yes, in a way. Olive, run a check on all the bank accounts of the main leaders. The largest would be the top dog. Ellie said. The one with the most money credited to his account in the past year would be this guy. His name is General James Morgan. I will send my people to get this guy tonight and bring him before us. But it will depend on the opportunities in the field. Paul said. Andrew called Roger's phone. Roger, where are you holed up? Roger's face appeared on the truck screen. We're at Danny's house right now. But don't come over here, I will just look for a nice warehouse office for us. By the way, the 2 telephone guys have left the area and we will be getting them shortly. The 2 guys who just arrived are still in the house. Roger sent the warehouse address. Olive, tell Harold to send his men to this address. Ellie said. I will send my people and equipment to that address also. Andrew looked at the truck's map and said, we would be there in an hour. I will call for some pasta and pizza for the guys. Uncle Andrew, don't forget the flowers and fragrance sprayers. Andrew laughed. Why don't I send a taco truck to park inside? I like that. I want a carne asada burrito. Ellie said. I'm hungry. Andrew seconded. Me too. But I like some Asian food. Adobo with rice. Andrew arrived at the warehouse Roger got for their operations. As the truck entered the warehouse he could see Roger waiting at a makeshift office with 5 people. Boss, a limo, 2 black vans and 5 Suburbans are outside waiting. There is also a taco truck and an Asian food truck parked outside. Roger told Andrew. Tell them to get inside here, including the food trucks. He then introduced Roger to Ellie and Paul. Then Roger introduced his men to the 3. 5 of my guys are deployed outside as lookouts. The 2 vans got in first, then the 5 Suburbans, then the limo. The 2 food trucks drove inside but parked in the uncovered area. After a while the 2 set themselves up. 3 people in uniform approached from the 5 Suburban trucks, then 2 people approached from the 2 vans. Then a very pretty woman in red business suit and a tall guy in black suit approached Andrew's group. Andrew waited for them. Sir, I'm Captain Kirk Johnson from the Navy, this is Captain Linda Bourne from the Air Force and Captain Jenny Phillips also from the Air Force. We have 12 other men inside the Suburbans. Secretary Harold Hicks assigned us to your group. Kirk saluted and the 2 each gave a crisp salute as they were introduced. You don't have to salute captains, I'm retired. Uncle Andrew, this is Eve and the guy in black is Joe White, my chief executive officer. The guys from the 2 vans are my hackers, this is Meadows and the black guy is James Bond. The group laughed. We call him Jimmy B so we do not laugh all the time. Eve said. Boss, where do we set up the equipment? Meadows asked. There, beside Roger. Andrew waved the 2 guys in white to come nearer. Wait, before anything else, I want to order a big burrito and a bottle of Jarritos. Ellie talked with one of the guys to give her order. Paul talked with the other guy and gave his order. Then the others started to give their orders to the 2. Meadows, set yourselves up outside the vans, park the vans on that side. Set up the antennas first. I want a dozen screens on this side. Get the phones from Eve and distribute them around. Meadows nodded and left. He could see 4 other people from the van get out and ordered food. Where are the 2 telephone guys and the 2 guys in a car? Andrew asked. We also got the engineer from Caltech. The 5 guys are in the room over there. The house and warehouse are not involved in anything. Eve, set the mind-reading equipment on the left of Roger right in the middle of this warehouse. Roger, tell your men to blindfold the 5 guys. Boss, do you want to get the top dog now? Joe asked Paul. Yes, and get his top assistants as well. Bring them over here. Joe used his phone to give instructions to his men. While they were all eating, Andrew told them to listen up. He then related the series of assassinations and ending with Ellie and Paul. Then Paul stood in front of the group. I want you all to know that Ellie and I are engaged to be married. Ellie did not move, not a nod nor a smile. The group shouted their congratulations. The marriage will be announced in a few days and will be done in less than a month. We will try to have a double wedding with Uncle Andrew here. He will try to propose tonight, and if he is successful, we may see a double wedding. Andrew looked surprised. Try? You may not muster the nerve, Uncle Andrew. The group laughed. Paul, do you need an engagement ring? Eve asked Paul. Don't bother Eve, his word is his bond and mine is likewise. Ellie said. We are that close. And no prenup. Paul told Eve. After an hour, Paul conducted a pretend mind-reading session. These guys are low-level targets. We would have to trace their supervisors all the way to the top, a very risky proposition. Boss, I will just inject them with the super morning after shot, then leave them on the streets separately. Meadows said. Paul nodded. What morning after? Ellie asked. Paul answered, the drug will scramble their brains. They would still be able to function but would be clumsy and be illogical in their thinking processes. They would not know what happened to them. We also call it the stupid pill. There is an antidote, but we will not give it to them. Olive appeared in 8 screens. Hi Andrew, Ellie, Paul, Eve, Roger. Guys, this is Olive, my AI. She will assist all of you in anything you like. Ellie said. I want you all to look at the phones we gave you. Paul started. The people held out their phones and looked at them. This is a very long-range satellite phone, very secure, and an earpiece comes with it. Nobody can hack or trace our calls because we are operating within our own network. You can call Saturn and have a clear signal. You have the ability now to talk to Olive and ask her about anything. Now the field operatives can access from Olive all enemy positions and possible alternative actions to take. We have 4 satellites in space devoted only for our operations. So if Olive can see it from space, she can tell you what she sees. The 4 satellites have all sort of eavesdropping capabilities and Olive has access to all of them. They include infrared, X-ray, video and ground-penetrating radar. After 2 hours, Paul's field operatives arrived by helicopter. A guy in dark gray suit walked towards Paul. Then 4 men followed him. Uncle Andrew, Ellie, Roger, Kirk, Linda, this is Romano, head of my field commandos. Romano introduced himself and his party to Andrew's group. Set the top dog right in the middle of the warehouse. I want to start with him. Paul said as Eve started to prepare the equipment. Romano's group brought out 4 older-looking men, all asleep. They sat a man on the chair and Eve connected the equipment to him. Then Paul sat beside the man and wore the headgear connected to the machine where the man was connected to. Ellie could see Paul hold the sleeping man's arm. After an hour, Paul stopped and looked at Ellie, then at Andrew, then at Eve.